6 billion people, innumerable cultures, countless ideas. In this world of unrest, yearning and horror, there's a constant zeal to form a better planet. As the words of the spin doctors leave a numbness within those searching for the truth, come with us and observe Globespin. This week, Globespin looks at the state of our worlds at the end of the old and the beginning of the new millennium. You'll see evidence of the striving for a new and better planet. You'll experience a shark feeding frenzy with the most dangerous shark known. In Jamaica, small business development is teaching the locals to harvest and use their rich potential in this beautiful land. New methods of diagnosing and treating the silent epidemic, osteoporosis. In 1972, Idi Amin expelled 80,000 Asians from Uganda. Nearly 30 years later, we'll show you how some of them are faring. And who is this man? The answer and much more in this edition of Globespin. Towards the close of the second millennium, the world was the victim of great disasters, both natural and man-made, such as the deadly cyclone in India in 1999. And with armed conflict in Kosovo and elsewhere, the ancient scourge of war continued to afflict us. Terrorism in Sierra Leone and East Timor resulted in extreme human misery and upheaval. The senseless destruction viewed by the world was sickening. Innocent children, as always, were the casualties. But when the wars ended, the incredible strength of spirit of the people, victimized by the hostilities, shone through. Cleaning up the weapons of aggression and hatred, ridding their homes of intrusive vestiges of war, and starting over, undertaking the necessary actions to start the wheels of a new life turning. And that is what Globespin is all about, showing the hopes and practical applications of not only the common people, but also the world leaders to make this a better world for ours and future generations.
Thank you very much.
Applications such as NetAid, a pop music concert put on with a view to ending world hunger, or at the very least, bringing awareness to the developed world. Launching NetAid, Kofi Annan described a world that all too many children will experience. For development, fighting poverty continued to be a core goal of the UN and its agencies at the end of the 20th century. In Syria, for example, where Palestinian refugees are learning marketable skills with the help from the UN Relief and Works Agency. And in Mozambique, the UN Children's Fund, UNICEF, supports mother and child care. Also, the cause of women was advanced as increasing numbers of countries agreed that women could take cases of discrimination directly to an oversight committee. Across Africa, a mobile museum in Botswana helped bring history and culture to classrooms throughout the country. In Madagascar, school meals are an incentive for children to gain an education, and in so doing, supplement an otherwise impoverished diet. By combining African efforts with those of the international community, Kofi Annan says that the course of peace and development in Africa can be given decisive momentum, and that Afro-pessimism and fatigue is an affront to the very idea of an international community. And in this new century, older people are finding increasingly that there is a more demanding role for them. In Uganda, grandparents must take over the upbringing of their grandchildren because their children are amongst the 35 million worldwide who've been infected by the AIDS virus. In Japan, a very different dilemma. The greying of the population has led to the nation having the highest proportion of older people anywhere. And with this development, the need for special facilities to enable them to continue to play an active part in the community. In 1999, a prevailing theme was the reaching out to new constituencies, to people in all walks of life, from business to voluntary organisations to community groups. Just such a partnership was forged between the UN and the International Football Federation, FIFA, represented by the Brazilian star Pelé. The aim? To use football as a vehicle to fight for equality of opportunity and against racism and discrimination. Worldwide responsibilities continued to take a tragic toll on the very people who strove to improve the world last century. More than 20 humanitarian workers died in a plane crash in Kosovo toward the end of 1999. And UN staff in Burundi were brutally murdered while carrying out their duties. And so we ushered in a new millennium with hopes for solutions and understanding. But what is the vision that confronts us? Is it one of peace and prosperity for all, where technology and commerce are harnessed to the common good? Or is it a divided planet, where literally billions of people live in abject poverty? These are the choices before us as we plan the future of our planet. One of the most common groups of shark found throughout the Pacific Islands is the whaler family. They generally approach both divers and prey with caution. However, they are territorial and will challenge trespassers. Whalers are responsible for more attacks on swimmers than any other shark. This group of divers, led by a pair of experienced Australians, is paying to view these awesome creatures during a feeding frenzy. Watch what happens when a series of bait floats are uncovered. Not the place to be if you cut yourself shaving. In Jamaica, as in many small island states, developing homegrown industries is a crucial issue. Faced with strong competition from imported products, Jamaican small and medium-sized businesses are finding ways to produce good products at competitive prices. To compete effectively, the cooperative runs 2 farm stores, assists farmers with veterinary services, and purchases of fertilizers. Co-op members hope to build a cottage industry in flavoured dairy products, such as yogurt and cheese, taking advantage of abundant local tropical fruits that would appeal to the tourist market. And the co-op provides its members with daily hygienic refrigerated milk collection. Training schemes help farmers and dairy workers learn ways to assure milk quality. It results in better, more wholesome products. Nestled in the heart of Jamaica's lovely Blue Mountains is the parish of St Andrew. Visitors are coming to realise the potential of the island's rich soil and abundant indigenous fruits and vegetables. The executive chef at Strawberry Hill Hotel, James Palmer, says local produce is sometimes a well-kept secret. Diners at the hotel can look across the valley and see the farms where the delicious food they'll be eating comes from. But for the farmers themselves, the rugged terrain poses a major problem in getting the crops to market. The road is frequently impassable to trucks, particularly in the rainy season. So, infrastructure development such as this road rebuilding is taking place. It'll help local industry compete with imports and have a disproportionately large effect on the lives of farmers. And the construction of this water tank in this ravine to regulate the water supply will assist farmers in growing new products such as snow peas, French beans and romaine lettuce. Lunch is served, And in Jamaica, as elsewhere, homegrown not only tastes best, it also helps create jobs and stimulate the local economy of small island states. Do you know me? I'm a world figure and I'm English. The answer after the break. Yes, it's British Prime Minister Tony Blair, seen here in an unfamiliar guise shaking hands with Kosovars. In the developed world, there's an epidemic that's prevalent amongst our old people, women in particular. Osteoporosis, thinning and weakening of the bones. It's known as the silent epidemic because sufferers often get no warning until a bone suddenly breaks. And it's getting worse. It can have long-term psychological as well as physical effects. This lady is having a special X-ray at a local hospital to see how her spine is responding to treatment. This is the standard way of detecting as well as monitoring osteoporosis. The X-ray shows up any wasting of the vertebrae in the spine. This bone densitometry test is limited. It can tell if a bone is thinning and how badly. If the red cross appears below the dotted line, then the osteoporosis is severe. But X-rays can't see into the actual structure of bone, an important factor in telling how strong it is. This could be the solution. Researchers are experimenting with ultrasound waves to see inside bone, and they hope soon to be able to test it in humans. When ultrasound waves travel through bone, the energy gets split into different waves, and those waves reflect different parts of the structure of bone. Researchers at Washington University in St. Louis are listening for bad bones by applying vibrations to a patient's skeleton. A computer measures how the sound bounces back. The bad bone has the capacity to absorb the sound and dampen it. If it sounds for a while, it's a good bone. Dampening is best demonstrated this way. The dampening method is 3 times more sensitive than traditional densitometers, so osteoporosis can be diagnosed and treated sooner. The beauty of ultrasound is that, unlike the X-rays, it doesn't use ionizing radiation. That's why it's used for pregnancy scans, and it's much cheaper. It's portable, so it can be taken around GP surgeries or rural clinics. Now, these women are doing one of the best things possible to help prevent osteoporosis. Exercise forces the muscles to put pressure on the bones, keeping them healthy and useful. But after the menopause, the female hormone estrogen stops circulating the body, profoundly affecting the cardiovascular system, central nervous system, and most drastically the skeleton. However, these women will be able to benefit from a new treatment which protects against bone fractures and helps lower cholesterol levels. Studies show a 50% reduction in bone fractures with Evista. Evista is a non-hormonal therapy which should appeal to women who aren't happy with conventional hormone replacement therapy, or HRT. One of the principal problems with conventional HRT is that the patients are returned to regular withdrawal bleeding or indeed to unscheduled bleeding. Evista won't treat the menopausal symptoms like flush attacks or night sweats, but after the symptoms have gone, if a woman is at risk of osteoporosis, the drug could be for her. There is also research into a drug called Fosomax, which has produced excellent results in the largest study ever undertaken on osteoporosis medication. The University of California tested 6,400 women over a 4-year period. All were on HRT. It found the combination of Fosomax with HRT more than trebled the increase in spine bone mass achieved with HRT alone. More than 200 million sufferers worldwide stand to benefit, as will health services which can free up costly hospital facilities associated with fractures. In 1972, Ugandan dictator Idi Amin expelled 80,000 Asians from the country, claiming they were Britain's responsibility. Thousands, though, became stateless refugees, falling under the care of United Nations refugee agencies. Amin claimed Uganda's Asian population was milking the economy and denying the country's African population what he said was their rightful share of the benefits of economic independence.
To look after those issues.
50,000 of those exiled held British passports, and after a century of life in Africa, they were forced to start all over again in a new country. This was a huge exodus of the Asian people. So nearly 30 years later, how have they fared? Bradford in England's north became home to many of the Ugandan refugees. The city is now a thriving multicultural metropolis. Bombay Stores is a family-run business entering its third decade of trading. What started out as a small concern catering for the needs of Bradford's mainly Pakistani and Indian populations has over the years developed into a multi-million-pound export business. Now, in addition to saris and silks, Bombay Stores is the largest supplier of bridal fabrics in the north. Hack's multicultural supermarket is another success story which has capitalised on integration. With over 10,000 product lines, the supermarket attracts customers from a variety of backgrounds, but remains true to its Islamic principles. Salim Ahmed had no experience in food retailing, but decided to found his supermarket on a basic business tenet: see what's missing and determine how you can do it better. The philosophy has paid off. The supermarket is now undergoing a major overhaul, and while the diverse range of spices, sauces, pulses, rices and flours will remain, the store will be more modern in appearance. Hacks currently turns over £2 million annually. Following the refurbishment, it's expected that figure will reach £3 million. Salim says that if you want to do something, you can do anything. You just have to work hard at it. The next stage for Hacks is the rollout of more stores in Muslim and Southern Asian communities across Britain. Curry is now the most popular takeaway dish in Britain, having even overtaken fish and chips. There are over 3,000 Asian restaurants in London alone. But for the second generation, Asian food and fashion are making way for industries of the future. 4 years ago, 34-year-old Anuja Rahaja spotted a yet-to-be unexploited business opportunity. After working as the public relations and marketing manager for Asian satellite broadcaster ZTV, Ms. Rahaja realised there was a huge commercial potential in marketing Asian business in the UK. Media Moguls was born in a back room, simply with the aid of a laptop computer. Today, the company is flourishing, employing a modest 13 staff members. Anuja says that after being diagnosed with a neuromuscular disease when she was 18, she's driven herself twice as hard as her peers. Today, her client list includes Cobra Beers, her former employer ZTV, and EMI's Asian music division. Yet commerce is not the only area in which members of an immigrant Asian community have made their presence felt in Britain. In 1952, a young woman came to Britain to study law. Early on, it was clear this Asian girl was not one for intimidation. One of only 8 women in a class of 80 students, her early experiences fueled the self-confidence to go into public life, culminating in a seat in the House of Lords. The woman is now Baroness Flather, and she became Mayor of Windsor and Maidenhead. Last year, the so-called brown pound was worth £7.5 billion to Britain's national coffers. In this new century, the influence from the subcontinent will be felt primarily in commerce. On current trends, the typical British economist and business school graduate will soon be predominantly of Asian background. Advancing the genetically modified food crops debate, the Worldwide Fund for Nature has called for a moratorium on all commercial plantings and trials of GM trees, like these in France, until the risks and implications are fully understood. Lignin, a resin in trees, makes them hardy and protects them. But when it comes to making paper, removing lignin makes for a costly process, so trees are being genetically altered to produce little or no lignin. Trees have a longer lifespan than food crops, and the pollen can spread as far as 600 kilometres. The fear is that a GM tree's altered genome could affect, even infect, the natural environment. Despite these and other risks, GM tree trials have increased dramatically in the last decade. All up, there are 116 confirmed trials experimenting with 24 species of commercially relevant trees, like fruit trees and timber industry varieties. Genetic pollution can be prevented by producing sterile trees, but a forest of trees without flowers, fruits and cones would sustain no life. The Worldwide Fund wants governments to play a more active role in controlling research, with a view to perhaps legislating that biotechnology companies bear the responsibility for any harm that comes from their trials. In the meantime, it's calling for GM tree trials to be reworked to include environmental impact research and asking companies to be more open about their activities. One of the key moments in English sporting history, the extra-time goal that brought England victory in the 1966 World Cup final and allowed Bobby Moore to lift the trophy in triumph before an ecstatic Wembley crowd. Mementos of that championship have now gone on sale in London. A shirt identical to that worn by Bobby Moore in the famous final was one of the main attractions of the auction. Prices exceeded expectations, with Nobby Styles' white shirt going for nearly $5,000. The auction pulled together memorabilia from the earliest days of international football, like this photo of the Scotland team, which played England in 1895. And it's not only international memorabilia that proved popular. This signed team photo of the Manchester United team, which won the European Cup in 1968, went for over $2,000. Club shirts too, signed by the stars. This time, buyers could bid over the internet. The auction was also covered by a specialised television channel. The system worked well, with 93% of the lots being sold for top prices, with bidders from the British Isles and overseas. Programs of matches from 40 and 50 years ago proved to be valuable draw cards, but the biggest sum, $13,000, was paid for a memento of the Manchester United side of 1957-58. This was 8 times the expected sum and a clear indication of the perennial appeal of this truly international game.
The auctioneer looks at that.
Okay, so
Thank you for travelling with us. We look forward to your company on the next Globespin.